So for your younger sporty patients who have a diagnosis of a rotator cuff tear, one of the key concerns is that they're going to need to have surgery. Well, I'm about to show you why that doesn't always have to be the case. Are you ready to find out? Let's dive in. Hey guys, Khalid here, welcome back to Clinical Physio. So today I've got some really interesting research for you from Mehta et al. 2019 as they look into rotator cuff tears in baseball players. Now before we get into the research, it's important for me to tell you a little bit more about the rotator cuff, and for that we need to dive in to our anatomy model. So guys, here's our anatomy model. Now we have 4 rotator cuff muscles. Let's dive into these. So the first one is supraspinatus, and this muscle runs from the supraspinatus fossa of the scapula and inserts into the greater tuberosity of the humerus, and in particular the superior facet of that greater tuberosity. Next we have the infraspinatus. This originates in the infraspinatus fossa, and it also inserts into the greater tuberosity, but the middle facet rather than the superior facet. We then have the teres minor muscle, which as you can see is just inferior to this, and this originates from the superolateral border of the scapula, and it also inserts into the greater tuberosity of the humerus, the inferior facet. So those 3 muscles all insert into the greater tuberosity, and the key thing that they have in common is that they are all considered to be lateral rotators of the shoulder. There's a little bit of controversy about supraspinatus and whether it actually initiates abduction or not, but nowadays we commonly think of it more as a lateral rotator. Now, if we flip over to the anterior surface of the scapula, here we have subscapularis. This originates in the subscapular fossa, as the name would suggest, and it inserts into the lesser tuberosity or the lesser tubercle of the humerus. And the difference between the greater tuberosity and the lesser tuberosity insertions means that subscapularis, because it inserts onto the lesser tuberosity, is going to be more of an internal rotator as opposed to the others. Now, ultimately, the key role that these muscles have together, whilst they have those independent roles, together they work to dynamically stabilize the shoulder during movement. And that's really important for our baseball players. And that's because if we consider the supraspinatus and the infraspinatus, these are the 2 key muscles that the researchers focus on in their article, the ones that are more likely to be torn in these baseball players. And that's because baseballers have to throw and pitch the ball in a very compromised position of the shoulder, this position of 90 degrees abduction with full lateral rotation, even more lateral rotation than I can show you on this video. And the suggestion is that during that process, that's when those muscles can get irritated. Now, if we remove these muscles and then focus on the glenoid rim, this is an area of the scapula where it is considered to be the socket of the shoulder. The glenoid is the socket of the ball and socket joint. And this superior rim is where the infraspinatus and supraspinatus muscles have to run over the top of before they insert into that greater tuberosity. And the suggestion from the researchers is that when baseball players are in this really compressive, stressful position, those muscles will get compressed over that superior glenoid rim. And because of the nature of baseball, having that repeated motion over a long period of time means that repeated stress is what can turn into a rotator cuff tear of that supraspinatus and infraspinatus muscles in particular. Now, just for a second, I thought I'd dive a little bit more into some of the clinical anatomy regarding the description of rotator cuff tears. So first of all, we have partial thickness tears and full thickness tears. Now, if I bring this diagram onto the screen, you can see that this is a side view of a tendon, and it clearly shows the difference between a partial thickness tear, where the tear only runs through a portion of the tendon, compared to a full thickness tear, where the tear runs right through the depth of the tendon. And we can also break these down further into whether a tear is bursal-sided or articular-sided. Now for this, it's important that I show you the subacromial bursa of the shoulder. As you can see, this sits in between the acromion and the superior humeral head. And the idea is that when we have a tear, it can either be described as the superior half, where it's a bursal-sided tear because it's closer to the bursa, or an articular-sided tear, which is on the inferior half and therefore sits closer to the articulation between the humeral head and the glenoid, and that's referred to as an articular-sided tear. Okay, so now we've done the anatomy, let's dive into the research. So Mehata et al. 2019 looked at 87 different baseball players and evaluated all of them with an ultrasound scan of their rotator cuff. Now, 46 of those players, 53% of them, had no evidence of a rotator cuff tear. However, the remaining 41, the remaining 47%, did have evidence of a partial thickness articular-sided rotator cuff tear. Hey, now you've seen the anatomy, you know what that means. So out of those 41, 19 of them had a supraspinatus tear only, 13 of them had an infraspinatus tear only, and the other 9 had both a supraspinatus and infraspinatus tear on their scan. So then they assessed all of the players, whether they had evidence of a tear or not on their scan, to see whether or not they actually had shoulder pain. What were the results? Well, incredibly, of the 41 players who did have evidence of a tear on their scan, only 7 of them, only 17%, actually had symptomatic shoulder pain. And as for the 46 who had no evidence of a tear, 9 of those players, 20% of them, did have shoulder pain. So that shows that whether you had evidence of a tear on your scan or not, you are almost just as likely to have shoulder pain. Okay, sure, that tells us about pain levels, but surely there would have been a difference in the strength between the two groups. Well, they looked at the individuals who had a rotator cuff tear on their scan and assessed their shoulder abduction strength of their dominant injured arm versus their non-dominant uninjured arm. And amazingly, they found that the dominant injured arm was still stronger in terms of shoulder abduction than the non-injured arm. Fascinating stuff. So, what does this actually tell us? Well, it demonstrates that just because our patient has evidence of a rotator cuff tear on their scan, it absolutely doesn't mean that they always have to have surgery. Hey, in the majority of cases, they may not even have pain at all. And if they do have pain, we can absolutely use rehabilitation in the form of rotator cuff strengthening exercises in order to help them. So what are some of the things that I give my patients? Well, we might consider things like a shoulder press, or a Pallof press, or just simple internal and external rotation with a TheraBand. There are many exercises you can use, just make sure it's something that's comfortable. I tend to give my patients these exercises every other day to make sure that their tendons have time to recover between loads with about 8 to 12 reps and 2 to 3 sets. And I think the other really important thing to consider is education. Because now, if my patient's really worried and anxious saying to me, look, I've got a rotator cuff tear on my scan, I can now reassure them. I can now show them that they don't always have to have surgery. And that can be one of the major things to get them on board with rehabilitation. So guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please support us by smashing that like button and subscribe to the channel for all our best updates. And you can follow us in even more places on our Instagram account @ClinicalPhysio and on our website clinicalphysio.com. Loads of resources for growing physiotherapists. My name's Khalid. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon here on Clinical Physio.